It's kind of one of those back to basic shows, not much action on week 4, although we got some great games to talk about here. But I mean, we're going back so far to the light bulb, in fact. Specifically the light bulb that's supposed to be over my head right now. That's why it's been so dark in here for the last few shows, in case those of you are wondering, want to know what's going on here. No, I'm not in mourning, although the Union Dutchman did lose again, so maybe I should be. But we'll get this taken care of. I even just ordered more toner for my printer. Okay, so we're really getting back to, getting ready for the stretch run here for D3. JB, I'm going to Wisconsin. We've announced it. I'm going to Pennsylvania and then Wisconsin.
Wow.
And
okay.
I'm not going to do a don't you know or anything like that, but that's more a Minnesota thing though anyway. But what do you think I should expect when I go out to Perkins Stadium on Saturday? What's your take on how I will be received there? Will I have to dodge things thrown at me, or will it be a love fest, do you think?
I think because of the what happened with the UMHB game, I think a lot of the Warhawk players and fans are probably going to ignore you to start off because they've got the Titans coming to town. It's a must-win game. There'll probably be 15, 17,000 people in the stands. I'm sure there'll be some fans that we'll get some, hey, Frank, type of stuff at. But the players, they'll be all focused in. I'm sure the coaches will do the quick, nice to see you, thank you for coming out here, all that kind of stuff. But it's going to be a business trip for this one, I think. But it will be exciting to be on the sideline with such a big crowd, such a big game, such a good rivalry. So I'm excited to see how it looks, because you always get the best live shots in D3, man. Some of those photos or videos that you shoot right there from the sideline during the games. If make sure to @ Frank Rossi on Twitter, follow him for the highlights of that. It's going to be great.
There was one thing that happens, though. Since I started to make my way into the Midwest, and you got a taste of it when you were at RPI with me, as we go out to these areas with these larger and larger football players, and I'm on a sideline, I feel like I'm 3 inches tall out there. Yeah, seriously. There is clearly something different about Midwest football. And Cortland showed it's not all about size at the end of the day last year, but my God, I feel like I'm a little tiny Frank Rossi on the sideline. Maybe I am shrinking in my old age. I don't know, but we'll see how this goes. But we're looking to have a fun time. I do want to talk about my trip this past Saturday to Connecticut, basically. Give you some details on that in this show. It's crunch time, though, before anything else. So welcome to Season 17 of In the Huddle. Didn't get to say my normal week 4 thing, so you didn't give me the the little 4 thing that you usually do.
No, I think we do. We also need to do a shout out for our friends down in North Carolina at Brevard. I can see the helmet over your shoulder, Frank. I mean, Carolina's seems like they've taken the brunt of this storm. Maybe even, I don't know if you want to say worse than Florida, because obviously the Panhandle region got hit pretty hard. But there's no internet. There's no people are stuck in these remote areas with no food and water. The Brevard Maryville game was not just postponed. I think it's going to be canceled. I don't know what that's going to mean towards the postseason, especially if those two teams end up being the top in the USA South. I'll have to come up with some other crazy tiebreaker or something to figure that one out. Good luck with there. But yeah, we're sending our thoughts to the folks out in North Carolina. Hopefully you're hanging in there. I know I've got some friends up there. I've seen some updates on Facebook and whatnot. It's yeah.
I lost my earpiece.
It's a little rough right now.
It was so bad, the USA South tiebreaker. I lost my earpiece. We're leaving that in. I'm out of here. We're done.
No.
But we're tiebreakers in the USA South, at least.
Oh my God.
But give me your 30,000-foot view besides the hurricane situation, which did not affect too much except for that game, but that's more than enough,
Right.
to be honest with you. But tell us what your insights were from week number 4.
Well, we saw a lot of teams on byes, especially in regions 2, 3, and 6. So we're not going to have as many games as we normally have to cover on this episode. There were just a lot of teams that just take week 4 off for whatever reason. It's a conference decision. It's a scheduling thing, just the way things work out. So there were definitely a lot less games, although Region 1 was pretty busy. And I think we also saw that there were a decent number of games happening in Region 4. So we'll have some stuff to talk about, but a lot less games this week. And still some exciting finishes, some surprises. And we'll also talk about some of our MVPs and predictions and all that kind of stuff.
Well, why are we delaying things? Let's get to it because I can't talk. That's why we might delay things here. This is get a little the other way. It's there you go. It's after 7 years of being on video. This is week 4. Crunch time for the 2024 Division III college football season. We'll start in a very good game in Region 1 against a Region 2 team, RPI at Endicott. After 2 early RPI field goals in the second quarter, 2:50 into it, Adam Goodfellow gets a 9-yard touchdown pass from Clayton Marengi to give Endicott the 7-6 lead, but RPI does respond. Second quarter, 5:40 left. Chris Buckley gets a 1-yard touchdown pass from Jake Kazanowski. That made it 12-7 RPI, but just before halftime, Marcus Bridgewater gets his 1-yard touchdown run, about a minute left in that half. 14-12, Endicott would have the lead at halftime. Third quarter, 3:14 left. RPI Sean Kelly gets a 7-yard touchdown pass from Kazanowski. That makes it 20-14, and RPI just won't go away in this game. Fourth quarter, 7:42 left. Adam Goodfellow, a 76-yard touchdown pass from Clayton Marengi gives the Gulls the lead back 21-20. And then a minute and a half later, this is Zachariah Twardowski's 47-yard pick 6 that puts Endicott up 28-20. Eventually, RPI would get the ball back with 1 second left, but Kazanowski is sacked, and that would do it. Endicott holds on and wins 28-20. Adam Goodfellow, 7 catches, 169 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Kazanowski for RPI, 15 for 27, 179 yards, and 2 passing touchdowns, 1 interception to go with it, though. In the MAC, it was Widener at Kings. Widener had a 10-7 lead late in the second quarter. 3:08 left second quarter. Kings' Ryan McCombs gets a 25-yard touchdown pass from Russell Minor Shaw. It's 14-10 at that point, Kings leading. Third quarter, 5:40 left. Kings adds on. Russell Minor Shaw gets his own 7-yard touchdown run to make it 21-10. Kings with an 11-point lead, but Widener would come back. Malachi Holmes gets an 18-yard touchdown pass from Michael Caloero to make it a 21-18 game. Still Kings leading. Kings, though, 2 minutes later, would get a 1-yard touchdown run from Russell Minor Shaw. 28-18, still 10-point lead at this point. 5 minutes later, Bryce Casey for Widener gets a 7-yard touchdown run to make it 28-25. 3:15 left in the fourth quarter. Look at this play here as Russell Minor Shaw is going to fumble the ball, and it's recovered by Jacob Koppelman. But look here now, instead of a field goal, Kings has the ball at the 4-yard line, 4th and 2, end of game situation. They choose to pass, and the jump pass is incomplete, broken up by Jake Rupert. And that would do it. A very surprising ending there. Kings wins 28-25. Russell Minor Shaw, 183 total yards, 2 rushing, 1 passing touchdown, and an interception for Kings. And Bryce Casey for Widener, 23 rushes, 125 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. Merchant Marine versus SUNY Maritime in a very short distance trip if you take it by boat at the end of the day. We'll talk about Maritime first here, with 2:48 left in the first quarter. Luke Caliendo gets an 8-yard touchdown pass from Steven Sassi to make it 6-3 for the homestanding Maritime squad. Second quarter, 8:20 left. Merchant Marines' Gervie Alota gets his own 1-yard touchdown pass to make it 10-6 in favor of the Mariners. 32 seconds left second quarter. SUNY Maritime's Devin Klein gets a 1-yard touchdown run, making it 13-10. And then get used to that name here, as on the other side of halftime, 52 seconds into the third quarter, Devin Klein, 16-yard touchdown run, 20-10. Maritime leading the Mariners. This is a surprising situation here. But then 2:39 left third quarter, Will Cerdez gets a 2-yard touchdown run to close the gap, 20-17. And then 52 seconds into the fourth quarter, it's Taliesin Smith getting a 21-yard touchdown pass from Gervie Alota to take the lead for Merchant Marine, 23-20. 8:44 left in the fourth quarter. Maritime has a 3rd and 2, and Steven Sassi gets a completion, but eventually it's fumbled, and James Gleason gets it for Merchant Marine. But on the very next play, Merchant Marine fumbles it back as Gervie Alota can't hold on to it. And in this case, it's Ryan Castelis getting it for Maritime. So teams would trade punts. Maritime gets the ball back with 4:41 left. Here on this 2nd and 8 play from the Maritime 36, Stassi's intercepted by Zatek Hulub, and that would do it pretty much, because Merchant Marine would run out the clock. 23-20, the Mariners win. Will Cerdez, 36 rushes, 143 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Devin Klein from Maritime, 17 rushes, 70 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Finally, my little road trip to Connecticut began with this game, Williams at Trinity. We'll go 8:59 in the first quarter left, that is. John Orris gets a 2-yard touchdown run for Williams here. And, you know, they were the underdog in this game, and they take a 7-0 lead. Actually, hold on. In the second quarter, 12:21 left, Owen McHugh extends that lead with a 9-yard touchdown run to make it 14-0. But then it became the Xander Zabrowski and Nolan O'Brien show pretty much for Trinity. 9:21 left in the second quarter, 28-yard touchdown pass to O'Brien. 14-7 is what the lead is. Charlie Cooper, though, adds some points on the defense for Trinity with this 52-yard pick six to tie the game midway through that second quarter. And just before halftime, it's Nolan O'Brien for the second time from Zabrowski, this time from 10 yards out for a 21-14 lead. We'll go third quarter, 11 minutes left. Max Roach, a 6-yard touchdown pass from Zabrowski. It's 28-14 at that point in favor of Trinity, and they just kept on rolling as O'Brien gets his third touchdown pass, this time with quite a bit of yak, as they say. 62-yard pass on the books at least. 38-14, Trinity leads the game. They win it 45-14. Owen McHugh gets 204 total yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and an interception for Williams. Xander Zabrowski, 20 for 29, 366 yards, and 4 passing touchdowns on the afternoon. Well, that is Region 1. It's been a while since we've had that much excitement and action, I feel like, in the homestanding teams for Region 1. And there's some more where that came from. JB, take it away.
Yeah, and it may not be much of a consolation prize, but you got to give W&E some credit for having Susquehanna come up to Springfield, and they only lost by 13 points to a top 10 ranked team, so not a bad showing for them under the circumstances. UMass Dartmouth puts up a 60-burger against Castleton. We saw Nichols take care of Dean. Ithaca traveled to Massachusetts to play Curry for the first time, I think, since about 2008 or 7 or something like that. We used to have a nickname for those games back in the day on the D3.com boards, but we'll save that for another time. WPI wins 14-0 over Norwich. Salve Regina takes down MIT for their first loss, 19-6. We saw Eastern win. FDU Florham is 4-0. Frank, they're doing great, leading the MAC, I think, along with Kings right now. Wilkes takes care of St. John Fisher. We had Bridgewater State win 41-0 over Framingham. I don't understand what's going on with the Rams, Frank. It's been, kind of a steady decline. They used to be the top team in the MASCAC for years. They would go and play Region 2 teams all the time. It's just a shame to see that they're having a tough time out there, but so be it. Lyco, Springfield, Stevenson all win. Bates with kind of a surprise upset win over Wesleyan. I think it's the first time they've defeated them in about 10, 15 years. Pat and Greg talked about it on ATN, so that's a big win for the Bobcats. Mass Maritime wins comfortably 29-6. Del Val 13-0 over Misericordia. That's interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on the Aggies this year. They don't seem to necessarily have as much firepower as we've seen in prior seasons. Bowdoin and Middlebury and Tufts all win in the later NESCAC games. Anna Maria puts up 47 points, taking down Husson 47-29, and then Westfield State beats Worcester State 35-27, and then WestConn, the last game that used Popeye, was not close, 72-0 over Fitchburg State.
We'll have more on that later. Yeah, we'll just say we're gonna bring you some interviews from that game because there's some interesting subplots right there. Yeah, okay. Don't completely throw away that sheet there. But why don't we move on to Region 2? But after I tell you, Coast Guard gave a challenge to Springfield. So, the number 3 team in the nation, or whatever the hell Logan thinks they are now, Springfield, struggling mightily against, that quality Coast Guard team out there. So let me just say, if Springfield is the number 3 team in the nation when this all settles out, you're going to see people with pitchforks going toward the robots that are picking the teams ultimately. Just saying.
Yeah. We'll see.
Region 2 time. Let's go to Carnegie Mellon at Washington and Jefferson as the pack got a little bit crazy. And crazy was this game, really. Second quarter, 8:52 left. Here's a safety as the punter steps out of the end zone for Washington and Jefferson. Carnegie Mellon collects 2 points for that. But the score is interesting. They're down 17-5 at this point. Just before halftime, 27 seconds left, Jacob McCosco gets a 7-yard touchdown pass from Jacob Pugh to make it 24-5, Washington and Jefferson at halftime. That caught the attention of a lot of people nationally for that halftime score. 41 seconds into the third quarter, though, it's Reese Kolke getting an 84-yard touchdown pass from Ben Mills to make it 24-12. Then let's look at some kind of ongoing theme, special teams disasters of sorts, as Washington Jefferson's Devin Wyant is blocked for an 18-yard field goal attempt by Luke Nelwaj, and that would give Carnegie Mellon the ball back. Later on, though, third quarter, they couldn't do anything with it, but Washington Jefferson with the ball. They are called for holding in the end zone, and the safety dance once again. 24-14, Carnegie Mellon twice gets those 2 points for safeties. At this point, Carnegie Mellon, third quarter, 2:49 left. It's Reese Kolke, 36-yard touchdown pass from Ben Mills to make it 24-21. They've almost caught up to Washington Jefferson. Now we'll go later on in this game. 4th and 8 play here. Field goal attempt by Justin Caputo for Carnegie Mellon. It's no good, but wait. Running into the kicker, the player that didn't block the ball hits the kicker. So Caputo gets a 24-yard attempt. At this point, it is good. It's 24 apiece. Washington Jefferson thought they had a chance with 5:39 left to take the lead, maybe win the game, but Devin Wyant is no good, blocked by Logan Young. What the heck is going on in this game? My goodness. And we would go to overtime. In overtime, Devin Wyant does hit a 29-yard field goal for W&J as they went first, 27-24. So Carnegie Mellon, just 2 plays into their overtime session, Reese Kolke just standing alone, 20-yard touchdown pass, does it, 30-27. Carnegie Mellon survives in overtime on the road. It's W&J in that game leading by 19 at the half, but losing by 3 in the end. John Peduzzi, 8 catches, 112 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Reese Kolke, 5 catches, 162 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns for CMU. UNE at U of R. And let's start second quarter, 2:44 left. Aiden Pampantonis gets an 8-yard touchdown pass from Wise Creighton to make it 14-0, Rochester leading, but New England would come back here. Third quarter, 10:26 left. Gavin Anderson, a 22-yard touchdown pass from Chris Lang, makes it 14-7. Rochester responds. 12 seconds later, Trey Johnson, a 95-yard kickoff return for the touchdown. And I'm going slow to be able to tell you, 21-7 is the lead for Rochester. But hold on, The ensuing kickoff to the ensuing kickoff is UNE's Damian Jones going 90 yards for a touchdown on the back-to-back kickoff returns for touchdown. 21-14. UNE trails at that point. Rochester responds. 4 minutes later, Jake Edelman, a 41-yard touchdown run, makes it 28-14 in favor of Rochester, the Yellow Jackets, I should say. Fourth quarter, 13-15 left. UNE's Damian Jones, a 1-yard touchdown run, 28-21. They just keep coming back at Rochester, but Rochester finally scores twice in a row as Aiden Papatonis gets a 3-yard touchdown pass from Creighton Wise. If I said Wise Creighton earlier, it's Creighton Wise, folks. My apologies to him. It's 35-21 in favor of Rochester. And then Daniel Papatonis gets a 1-yard touchdown run for Rochester about a minute and a half later, make it 42-21. And that would be the final as Rochester wins that game, 42-21, as I said. Daniel Papatonis, 22 rushes, 121 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Aiden Papatonis for Rochester, 3 receiving touchdowns and 3 receptions, 2 receiving touchdowns. That's pretty good efficiency by him. Then we have Union at Montclair State, and interesting game played out here. 6:59 left in the second quarter. It's Jaden Peart getting a 29-yard touchdown pass from Aiden McLaughlin to make it 7-0 in favor of Montclair. But then 52 seconds left second quarter, Michael Fiore gets a 6-yard touchdown pass from Patch Flanagan. They go for 2 as it was raining in Montclair, and the kicking game's been an adventure a little bit sometimes for Union. It's 8-7 at halftime. They're actually not at halftime because Montclair gets a field goal before halftime to make it 10-7, I should say. Third quarter, 2:44 left. Montclair's Christopher Arnold gets a 9-yard touchdown run to take a 9-point lead, 17-8 for Montclair. Fourth quarter, 7:07 left. It's Cam Fries getting a 7-yard touchdown pass from Patch Flanagan. 17-15. Union's getting closer. Late in the game, Union had a couple chances here, but here's the last chance. 4th and 8 from their own 33-yard line. Flanagan incomplete, and that would do it. Montclair wins their 500th win in MSU program history, 17-15. Christopher Arnold, 24 rushes, 79 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Patch Flanagan, 149 total yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Interesting, that UNE game, you got to give them credit. They wouldn't go away in that game. The back-to-back kickoff returns for touchdown and everything else was a pretty amazing thing you don't see very often in college football these days. Take it away. You don't see it at all in the NFL anymore, but that's for another reason. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I guess they call UNE the Nor'easters for a reason. They just keep, they keep storming back. But yeah, really barely any games to cover here in Region 2, so I guess I'll take my time a little bit. But Grove City, not surprisingly, wins big, 58-7. Moravian with a close one, 14-6 over Morrisville. My Hobart Statesman, shout out to Johnny Columbi. He had a career day passing completion percentage, yards, and I think passing touchdowns with 4. So 52-9 over Keystone in a good win. They're playing Ithaca on Saturday. We'll talk about that on Friday. Alfred, look at these guys. Holy smokes, 45-15 over Catholic. Case Western dialed it up to 56-14 over Geneva. Westminster kind of did the same thing to Teal, 58-6. Buffalo State takes care of Alfred State, 12-0. And Shenandoah beats Juniata 62-27 in a Region 3-2 crossover. And that's
JB,
about
I don't
it
have much
for Region 2.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't have much to tell you about Region 3, but I'm going to tell you one thing about it, and that's Huntingdon at Hendricks. Here we go with that game. 6:08 left, second quarter. Okay. Hendricks' Weston Bruce, 39-yard touchdown pass from Jacob Bunith makes it 15-14 in favor of Hendricks. Huntingdon responds with a field goal. Minute 27 left, though, second quarter. Another Hendricks touchdown. Avik White gets a 5-yard run, and Hendricks extends the lead now 21-17 at that point. Huntingdon, again, just before halftime, gets a field goal. 21-20, Hendricks leads at halftime. Third quarter, 11:32 left. Hendricks' Weston Bruce gets a 16-yard touchdown pass from Bunif to extend the lead to 8 points, 28-20, but Huntingdon would respond. Fourth quarter, 12:48 left. Huntingdon's Terrell Copeland gets a 33-yard touchdown pass from Jake White to make it a 28-28 score after the 2-point conversion rushing play works. Hendricks gets the ball back with 6:35 left in the fourth quarter. In a methodical 13-play drive, they take the clock to 2 seconds left. And here's the play. Clay Brandenburg is good from 27 yards out, and Hendricks wins, walking off on the field goal, 31-28. Jake White, 16 for 26, 266 yards, 1 passing touchdown for Huntington. For Hendricks, Jacob Uniff, 17 for 33, 304 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and an interception. And Clay Brandenburg for Hendricks, the game-winning 27-yard field goal. We'll also take a look at the score sheet to remind you that Brevard at Maryville did not occur because of Hurricane Helene. So JB will let you go with other scores, not many of them in Region 3. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the Cowboys of Hardin-Simmons put an absolute beating on whoever this North American team is, 90-7. We don't really know how good Hardin-Simmons is yet, but they're hosting Endicott this Saturday in a little bit of a revenge match after losing to them by 30 points in Massachusetts last year. That will be a better litmus test to really tell us what HSU is about this year. At least one team from North Carolina was able to play. Greensboro takes down Southern Virginia 42-23. Belhaven bounces back with a 30-12 win over NC Wesleyan. LaGrange gets a rare win, Frank. This was another thing that came up on ATN that I noted. 40-24, the first win for them in a couple of years, I believe. So congratulations to them down in Georgia. Millsaps, our friend, the Majors, 31-21 over the University of the South. McMurray takes care of Austin 34-9. We thought the ETBU Centenary game might be a little closer. It wasn't. ETBU just came out firing and won 47-8. And then Texas Lutheran with a 49-0 shutout of Leon or whatever they call that one, I guess. Yeah, that's it for Region 3.
We'll call Lion, and they'll tell us we're Lion for that. Leon. Yeah, I like it. Low French in the show. We're culture here in the Huddle. Let's go to Regions 4 through 6 here, and we got 4 games to talk about. First, my Stone Cold Lead Pipe Lock of the Week, Hope at Alma. As I picked Hope to win this, we'll see what happens. Here we go. First quarter, 4:54 left. It's Grant Holzer, 16-yard touchdown pass from Ben Wellman to give Hope the 7-0 lead early on. Second quarter, 8:21 left. They'd extend that lead as Tyler Amos gets a 34-yard touchdown run. That's 17-0 Hope. My goodness, what's going on here? Well, look at this. It's a 3rd and 2 play from the Hope 20, and Carter St. John intercepted by Lorenzo Vitti. And that would lead to, with 13 seconds left in the third quarter, Chance Strickland getting a 2-yard touchdown run for a 24-0 lead. That's Hope leading this game. Third quarter, 12:15 left. Seth Lumen gets a 4-yard touchdown pass from Wellman. That made it 31-0 Hope. The final, 34-13. Hope was flying, as the Flying Dutchman should. Hope outgained Alma 608 to 307 in total yards. Chance Strickland, 28 rushes for 179 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. St. John for Alma, 16 for 33, 229 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. We'll go to Howard Payne at Wittenberg. Wittenberg looking for their 800th win in this game. We'll fast forward to the middle of the third quarter, where Wittenberg led 16-7, but they will get a touchdown here. Christian Manville, with 6:18 left third quarter, gets a 9-yard touchdown run to make it 23-7, and then they would get a fumble recovery. The scoop and score by Eli Rennick makes it a 29-7 game on that 40-yard fumble recovery for touchdown with 5:04 left third quarter. Fourth quarter, 13:41 left. Howard Payne's Ellis Myers makes a 28-yard touchdown pass a reality for touchdown from Zy Gravitt to make it 29-15. Then 9:27 left fourth quarter. Earl Pope gets a 6-yard touchdown pass from Max Milton to make it 36-15. So Wittenberg back up by 21. Howard Payne surges back. 6:39 left fourth quarter. Jacob Urbina with the 44-yard pick 6 to make it 36-22. And a great play there, as you can see it ending as Urbina gets into the end zone. 4:04 left. It's Howard Payne again. Mateo Hernandez, the 80-yard touchdown pass from Zy Gravitt, makes it 36-29. Then later on, 2:41 left in the fourth quarter. It looks like Howard Payne's getting the ball back, but they muff the ball. They muff the punt Wittenberg with the ball. They have it 4th and 4 at the Howard Payne 6-yard line. The 23-yard field goal by Lucas Zwirik is no good. So Howard Payne gets the ball back, and they get it to midfield. 1st and 10 play at the Wittenberg 49 is a sack for loss, and that would do it as the time expired in the game. Wittenberg wins their 800th, 36-29. Milton, 19 for 32, 303 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, with 2 interceptions for Wittenberg. And on HPU's side, Matt Hernandez gets a 5-reception day, 131 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Then WashU in North Central. We don't have clips for this game. Unfortunately, they pulled down their archive, couldn't get it in time. But 49-9 is the score. Luke Lanen with 162 total yards, 2 passing touchdowns, had to leave the game. And North Central outgained WashU 556 to 145 in total yards. Then finally, St. John's at Bethel. 3:18 left first quarter. Caden Wheeler gets a 4-yard touchdown run to make it 14-7 for the visiting Johnnies. 31 seconds left first quarter. Will Blakey, a 1-yard touchdown run, makes it 21-7. And they would just keep rolling in this game with St. John's. 11:10 left second quarter. It's Dylan Wheeler getting a 4-yard touchdown pass from Aaron Severson. 28-7 is the score at that point. Just before halftime, Bethel would try to respond with a 4-yard touchdown pass between Cooper Drews and Ethan Saylor. 28-13 was the score at that point. We'll go third quarter, midway through it. Will Blakey for St. John's gets a 2-yard touchdown run, 35-13. Bethel will try to stay in it still. Matt Jung with this 84-yard pick six with 3:38 left in the third quarter would at least make it respectable at that point, 35-20, as St. John's still leads by 15 points. But St. John's gets a field goal early in the fourth quarter and then puts the icing on the cake. 6:04 left in the fourth quarter. Marcelio Mendez, a 38-yard touchdown pass from Severson, makes it 45-20, and that would do it. That was the final score, 45-20. St. John's wins. Aaron Severson, 28 for 38, 362 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Cooper Drews, your player of the week last week, 20 for 35, 223 in yardage, 2 passing touchdowns, but 4 interceptions were his bugaboo in that game for sure. JB, kind of went how we thought it would that game. And the North Central game. Wittenberg with that big win against Howard Payne, but what a game that was. And then the Hope Alma situation. Wow. MIAA is looking like a very interesting conference, to say the least. We'll talk a lot more about that as the weeks go on. Regions 4 through 6, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, not a ton of surprises. You know, the top-ranked teams like Mount Union, River Falls, and Wartburg, DePaul all won big. But one score that jumped out at me, Frank, that was a little surprising, this 22-10 Wheaton-Carroll final. Giovanni Weeks was held to a pretty low yardage rushing total. Just seems like the Thunder aren't clicking, and they have a big game this next weekend against North Central that could be maybe as rough as the one that you saw in person last year. We'll see. Aurora won big, 72-6. Albion thumps Trine, 42-14. And then we saw Denison, Kenyon, and Carleton win their games. Luther won in it looks like a field goal battle, 9-6. Marietta, still I think a sneaky team to keep an eye on in the OAC. They could surprise people. They won 54-10. Ohio Northern also put up 50 points in a 59-3 win over Wilmington. John Carroll takes care of Heidelberg handily, 48-10. Concordia Moorhead blank St. Scholastica. Simpson beats Laura 66-14. In the back of the MIAC, we had Gustavus blank Augsburg 28-0. Augustana squeaks by Milliken 24-20. Central wallops Buena Vista 52-0. Another shutout for Illinois Wesleyan 35-0 over Carthage. Co beats Dubuque 27-10. Elmhurst beating North Park 28-21 might be a little bit of a surprise for fans out there. The Vikings had a pretty good season last year, but you got to credit the Jays for that one. St. Norbert wins 40-3. Concordia, Wisconsin wins 23-18. A couple of close games. There weren't a lot, but there's a few here. Adrian winning 24-14 over all of that is another one. And then Willamette wins 21-18 over Simpson, which I believe is a NAIA school out in California. Pomona Pitzer needs to hang on against Laverne 27-20. Kalamazoo squeaks by Calvin 33-31. And that Wisconsin Lutheran Lakeland game that we told you about in our Friday show, number 400, It ended up being behind a paywall, so we couldn't really pull the clips, but the game was as exciting as we thought it would be. 33-31 came down to a failed 2-point conversion that could have forced it into overtime. Whenever these teams play, some crazy stuff happens, so it's always fun to keep an eye on that. And then the last three, St. Olaf wins 29-0, Claremont Mud Scripps takes care of Kowloon 31-13, and Chapman beats Redlands 32-10.
And that is crunch time for week number 4 of the 2024 Division III college football season. Okay, big guy, that Carnegie Mellon game we featured, I think it's going to probably lead to me going back to Grove City. I think, is it really happening that 2 years in a row that game is going to be at Grove City? I don't know how that would have happened.
It's at Grove City, on October 12th, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so there may be a very good chance I'm coming out there for that game. I don't understand, as I said, how that happens with scheduling, especially the second year of this whole full round robin schedule thing they did. So Brian Larson's probably going to be getting the troops all excited about that fact alone, that they have to go back on the road to Grove City. But we look here at your MVPs, and it does involve one of his players, a sophomore no less, a wide receiver named Reese Kolke. Loved the name and loved his gameplay on Saturday. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, he just came up big. I mean, for a young player, he scored, I think, the game-winning touchdown at least, and he scored a couple others that Carnegie Mellon needed to get back into this game. It was really, the first half for Carnegie Mellon was just awful. I mean, they had 3 turnovers that led to 17 points for the Presidents, and they just kind of dug themselves into a hole. But guys like Ben Mills and Kolke helped dig them out of it. And the special teams play and the defense, you have to give credit for too, because after those 24 points in the first half, they were able to hold W&J to a field goal the rest of the way. So that was a huge win for Carnegie Mellon. Maybe a game they should have lost. And when they look back on the season, they might be like, "Wow, we were lucky to get out of there with a W." But Kolke definitely had some big plays and was a big reason for that comeback. So that's why he got my offensive player of the week. In the special teams side, it's funny, when I looked up Clay Brandenburg, apparently there's some kind of professional, like pro weightlifter or just giant muscle guy with the same name. This Clay, who's a sophomore at Hendrix, is a little more slight, but I had to give him credit for getting that game-winning field goal to the walk-off for Hendrix to beat Huntington, which is kind of a perennial conference champion down there, and so that's a big win for the Warriors, who are trying to make a name for themselves in the SAA. We'll see how that goes the rest of the year. And then finally, last but not least, fifth-year senior Zachariah Twardarski, who had pretty much the game-winning pick 6 for Endicott in a game against RPI that I thought for a long time, Frank, I thought the Engineers were going to win. They looked good. They were, Endicott was struggling, and it took some big plays like Zach's here to really put them over the top, and they're going to need some of that type of stuff against Hardin Simmons this weekend. But for that big pick 6 to put that big game away, Zachariah Twardarski is my defensive player of the week.
I think that's a very good choice. And let's look at our picks here: 10-1 and 10-1. Wow, we had a good week. The asterisk denoting the Maryville game. Yeah, so we will not actually put that into our standings. But 40-13, which means basically what? 13 losses, about 77%. Yeah, about that, and 39-14 right behind me. As we kind of get through, the non-conference portion of the season in its entirety, just a couple left in those types of games down the line here. It's interesting to see that we were able to withstand that non-conference schedule with really decent records. So kudos to us, if I do say so myself. Yes, good job. Let's talk about my Connecticut adventures a little bit, and let's start with the Williams at Trinity, Connecticut game. Inevitably, when we talk NESCAC, what's the question everybody asks me, or you for that matter, about the NESCAC in this day and age? Go ahead.
If they were in the playoffs, would they win? How would they do?
let's talk about this for a second as I lose my voice a little bit today.
I can start.
You'll get plenty, don't worry. It's a bit of a travesty that this situation even has to be discussed, okay? And, the NESCAC's come a little bit of a way here because 8 games used to be the standard. They wouldn't have a full round robin. A few years back, they expanded it to 9 games so that everybody plays each other. Great, okay? This year they're in our weeks 2 through 10, so they don't even go the distance with us this year because of the way the calendar fell. So, great. Okay. I get there, I look around, I actually know a player on Williams from the local area and saw him. Good to see Matt Bott, running back. He'll be a phenom as he grows up there at Williams, and Coach Ray's lucky to have him. But I look around, and I look at the gameplay, I look at the size of the players, and I said, you know what? They aren't as undersized as I thought they might be. And it takes actually being there to see this sometimes. And the gameplay was great. Xander Zabrowski might be a little undersized for a quarterback, but hey, so was Drew Brees, and so that doesn't mean anything. And he got great tutelage in his years there behind a phenom quarterback at Trinity. So, he's so, good at what he does. So don't let size or stature fool you for him. And, I looked at the game. And the night before, I saw a player on a high school sideline. I'm not going to name names. And we were having this conversation because I said, I'm going to Trinity for the Williams-Trinity game. And they said to me, I considered going to Trinity. And when I found out that the NESCAC doesn't have playoffs or they don't participate in the playoffs, I decided against it. And now the NESCAC may feel like we don't want guys that are just football driven to be in our schools. We want the total student athlete. Well, not for nothing, this person is an exceptional student. Went to an exceptional school, ultimately. He'll do just fine. But the point is, for those that are out there to think that the NESCAC is doing themselves a service by not participating in playoffs, especially now that we have the additional Pool C bids, up to 40 total teams now. It's there waiting for you, NESCAC. Where the hell are you at this point? Every other sport that I know of in the NESCAC participates in the playoffs of that sport. The BS that comes up...
most of them.
Yep. 100%. And let me tell you that the fact of 4-month season, 5-month season, whatever people will assume. Okay, football's a 4-month season at this point if you go from wire to wire. That's the same as hockey, basketball, baseball, most other sports where you do participate in the playoffs. Now, look, we aren't a show that caters to conferences. I mean, we have good friendships with the PAC and the Landmark and others out there. Don't get me wrong. We enjoy having good relationships. But at a certain point in time, we do this show for the student athletes, the coaches, their families. Okay? That's what this show is about. So let me be honest and frank with everybody here. To those smart students at the NESCAC schools, we said this back during COVID. You matter. That was our theme when they were taking your seasons away and everything else for no really good reason. The science wasn't really there to justify everything we were doing to you and everything else. Well, you know what? Stand up for yourselves and make your voices heard. If you think your teams should be able to go to the playoffs, then say something loudly to the folks that control this situation. It's time. Okay, it is time. That Trinity team I watch on Saturday could get to the second or third round of the playoffs and do mightily fine in that game. And there's no reason they shouldn't be there. There's no reason. And let me tell you one honest impression here, folks. This is a Title IX debacle because you have 75 male football players, basically, at these schools that are not getting equal access or equal playing ability into the playoffs that their cohorts throughout female and male sports get. And that's a Title IX deficiency right there. And so to the NESCAC, I will challenge you on that. If you think it's not, go ahead and tell me it's not. Let's go. Let's go. Because that's bold. So I enjoyed my time at Trinity a lot. Coach Devaney and Coach Aquarulo are great guys. Lou, thanks for having me up there, giving me a parking space and everything else. I'll probably never be invited back after that rant. But JB, you come from that country. You come from NESCAC country, essentially. Yeah. Go ahead. I know you got plenty to say, too.
All you have to do is look at the NESCAC success in every other Division III sport, and it's starkingly obvious that if they really wanted to go all in on football, that they would be competing for national championships eventually. I mean, they could be as good as those Mount Union teams in the 90s and just run through. The NESCAC schools have more money than any division schools, some even like more than Division I schools in the country. I mean, these guys have more resources, more access to players that could be FCS, Ivy League types of guys or things like this. Like if they really wanted to stack it up, they could, and they would be as dominant as they are in the women's sports. They're constantly at the top of women's field hockey and soccer, ice hockey and men's hockey. Trinity played Hobart for the national championship. In basketball, the NESCAC teams are always in the top 5. So this conference and these student athletes that they can recruit and bring into this school are just as good as anywhere else across the country. And maybe it would take them a couple of years to maybe get the size of some of the Wisconsin teams. But I guarantee you, if they were participating in the playoffs and the coaches had the green light to really go out and the 75-man roster limit too is also something that kind of holds them back to a certain extent. But I know that there's other conferences like the Liberty League and the Centennial that are probably happy because that's they would probably be losing players to the NESCAC too because the academic reputations are, let's face it, they're better. I mean, maybe not than Hopkins or some of the like at MIT, but still, I mean, when it comes down to it, these institutions have more money than who, and could make things happen. Could make academic scholarships to get people who can't afford. I mean, all this stuff would work out, and the NESCAC could roll through anybody if they really wanted to. So we'll see. I mean, I know they kind of pride themselves in this little bubble that they don't want to get out of, and that they're academics above all else. But as we've seen in other sports, they compete for championships everywhere else. Why not football?
What's the onus they're putting on the idea of football in the first place? If they're saying basketball and soccer and baseball and all the other sports have the capabilities to play and learn and do or excel at what they do in the classroom, then what are they suggesting about football players at the end of the day? Honestly, I mean, this is a bias or discrimination scenario unlike many I've seen at this point, and it's a conference doing it. It's not just individual schools doing it; it's an entire conference doing that. And again, players, use your voice. Use your voice because it matters. I remember when Union wanted to play spring sports, they used their voice to David Harris, the current outgoing president at Union, and he buckled essentially and let them play in that spring. And most people thought he was going to go the other way on that one. Yep, and it was the right move in 2021 in that spring to do so. So let's move on from there. Like I said, I'd probably never be invited back, but WestConn. That's a team that won 72-0 against Fitchburg State. That's going to be a team that's going to be heard from. That is a team that's being kicked out of their conference. A little bit of controversy in my Connecticut visit this weekend, could you tell? A little bit. But first off, let's talk about their quarterbacks because Keion Jones, if you remember correctly, had a decent game against Johns Hopkins in the playoffs last year for WestConn. They stayed in that game for a little while thanks to him. He had replaced John Giller, who had been injured after a very good 2022 season, essentially. Well, they're both under center at this point, and let's hear from both of them about their 72-0 win, but overall their season and other stuff at WestConn. You guys seem to be sharing some duties out there. The two-headed monster behind center. Keion, I'm going to talk to you first. I mean, you're renowned for last season, some of your numbers, some of your accolades, etc. But, here you're being unselfish with, how the offense is being managed and everything. Tell me about how this came to be and how it's working for you guys.
Oh, well, we're just using the best of both of our abilities and just making the most out of it, truthfully.
Who's good at what, basically? Let us in on the secrets.
John's a little bit more of a runner than me. He's quite more athletic than I am, but that's really just it.
John, tell me about how much you respect this guy here.
I mean, we have great chemistry. There's never bad blood, nothing. I mean, we go out there, we win games. That's all that matters. Doesn't matter who's getting the reps. It's a team win.
Specifically in this game, it started pretty hot for you guys and, never really let up in that first half. Take me through the strategy in this game. Obviously, Fitchburg is, on again, off again, mostly off the way things have gone for them the last few years, but you can never let or take anybody too easily. How did you guys approach this game?
I mean, we spent hours preparing for every single team. Doesn't matter what team, so we go out there, we watch so much film. Our practices, we give it 100%. We said that this week was going to be a week that we wanted to practice full energy, full effort, all that stuff, and it comes out 17-0. So,
Keion, take me through more of that.
Definitely. So we just focused on ourselves this week. It wasn't about who we were playing against. Just mattered that we went out there and executed our best abilities.
The MASCAC hasn't been very nice to you guys lately, obviously, and I know you want to stay out of the administrative BS that goes with it, but at the same time, how important would it be to win the MASCAC going away, basically, to the landmark?
It would be a great thing for the school, I feel like, as a leaving present for ourselves, to win leave the MASCAC with a win.
Is there going to be any settling for anything short of that at this point, John?
No, sir. We just want to win football games, whatever it takes.
Guys, we're going to give you a chance for shout-outs for any family, friends, teammates, whoever might be watching. Keion, start with you. Here we go.
I want to give a big shout-out to my grandmother. She just recently passed away, and my family, so just all prayers to my family.
Definitely prayers to your entire family.
Thank you.
Mom and Dad? Oh, yeah.
There you go. Guys, 72-0. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thanks to those guys. And now to Joe Loth, who has a lot more to say about getting booted from the MASCAC and what it means. And his focus isn't really on his team as much as it is on Castleton. Coach, 72-0, and obviously Fitchburg is a team that's still trying to build up here in the MASCAC, but you couldn't take them, not seriously. How did you approach this game with your guys so that they didn't look past this game?
Well, the first thing I said is, they were 1-2 coming into this game. Could have been 2-1. They literally had the ball against Worcester last week on their 20 with 2 minutes left to win the game. So I really approached it like, hey, they're 1-2, could be 2-1. So we can't take these guys lightly. But after that, we just talked about playing up to our standard. The week before we won, but I don't know if we played up to our ability. And so we're really, really focused about ourselves this week more than anything else.
The Keion and John show there behind center, tell me how that developed, how you feel about it, how it's working for you guys.
Well, it's always a challenge when you have two quarterbacks that are really good. Like John started 23 games in a row for us, won a lot of football games, and then he got hurt last year. Keion took over, became a second team all-conference, took us to the playoffs. And then we're going to make it a little bit of a competition. Then John got hurt in the spring, didn't go through any spring practice. So Keion ended up starting here this fall for us, but you saw today they're playing pretty close. I think we figured out a formula to seamlessly play them without yanking them in and out of series.
The defense took pride in keeping the 0 on the scoreboard. What did you say to your team, though, after the Merchant Marine game that got the defense especially to meld in the way that they did for a game like this?
Well, Merchant Marine was an interesting game for us because we're the only team in the country that probably opened up with 3 straight triple option teams. And Merchant Marine really helped us sharpen up our defense for week 2 and 3 in the triple option. Obviously super disappointed in that game. Would have, liked a do-over, but you don't get that in football because we did not play well, especially offensively in that game. But I think when you play a team like Merchant Marine and they run the triple so well, it does sharpen up your run defense. And then the next week, triple option kind of keeps sharpening up your true run defense. And I was more worried about our pass defense because we hadn't played a conventional offense since really our offense in camp. So I was happy kind of how it came together today.
You go on the road, I believe, next to Plymouth State before you guys get a bye. How important would it be to start the season 4-1, 4-0 in conference heading into that bye week?
Well, our goal obviously is to win the league is our number one goal. And to do that, we've got to win this week against Plymouth. We know how physical they are. Like to run the football. They got a senior quarterback in Brandon Lynn. And so we know what a challenge that's going to be. So, our goal always is to go 1-0 every week. So it starts this week with going up to Plymouth on their homecoming and making that road trip and playing well.
You heard my question of the guys, but I didn't want them to go too much into the administrative abyss of it all. But the MASCAC has not been too nice to you guys in terms of what's going to be happening here. But the landmark obviously is on the horizon. How much do you want to take this hardware with you out the door from the MASCAC?
Well, obviously it was a kind of a shocking thing to get kicked out of a league. And then 4 teams are kicked out, 2 are brought back in. Just a kind of a head-scratching thing. Especially, we're lucky to be back in the league. We got invited to Landmark, an outstanding conference. We're excited to be there. But there's a school out there, Castleton, that doesn't have a conference right now. There's livelihoods at stake. There's Division III student athletes that potentially don't have an opportunity to play next year. And I'll scratch my head forever to wonder how the MASCAC couldn't figure this out and kick teams out and leave teams hanging out there. So, I guess that's all. I'll leave it with that. But it was a head-scratching event, and I know there's some things behind it, I guess, but I'll never understand it.
Just want to say one additional thing. I know there was an official tonight that had a seizure in the field, and I just want to compliment the athletics staff and the first responders that are around the school that came out here and helped out at a time when that official was in most need.
Yeah, he looked like he had a seizure on the field, which at first you don't know what's going on, and it was super scary, and I thought both teams handled it well. And like you said, the support staff here, the trainers and the doctors all kind of handled it, and he's able to, I think looks like he was okay at the end of it and stuff like that. But at any time in football, when there's an injury of anyone, official or anyone, and the game has to stop, it becomes very concerning.
72-0, big win for you guys, and we'll see where this goes this season. Coach, thanks and congratulations.
Great seeing D3 football here more than anything.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Sounds good.
Thanks to Coach Loth for that discussion and candor, and also prayers to the referee who had suffered the seizure in the middle of the field in that game in the second quarter. Yep, and great job by that staff to get out there and help him out. But JB, it's a very, very poignant point by him about Castleton. You've got kids who don't know, or players who don't know what their future holds for them in their Division III life after this year because of what the MASCAC did here. And, who wants Castleton in the middle of Vermont is really becoming the question. I don't say that to be cruel. I say that to be realistic. That is what the hubbub is, because every time you name a conference, except for maybe the Liberty League, the remoteness of Castleton becomes the real issue. And it seems like none of the New England conferences are really interested to let them join. I don't know if it's a school character issue or what. What are your thoughts on how this played out?
Well, I think about schools like Husson, which is in Bangor, Maine, which is pretty remote and far up there. That's not as close as Vermont, and Castleton's sort of on the southern part of it, not far from northern Massachusetts. So you would think that maybe the CNE or even NEWMAC would potentially be a landing place. Maybe I know the ECFC is going away, but that maybe that drags that out. I mean, if we had like a boat that we could take over to St. Lawrence, across the Lake Champlain, that could maybe help. But yeah, they are a little bit isolated, but they're not so far away that they couldn't land somewhere. It's just hard to believe that there's no other options at this point. And I mean, I guess they could just do an independent thing for a while and see how that goes. I mean, there's always teams that need out of conference games in weeks 1 through 4, but yeah, it's going to be a tough road to hoe for them.
Yeah, well, what about weeks 5 through 11, essentially, or the games that they play in there? That becomes a challenge. So we'll see what happens, but I appreciate Coach Loth's honesty and candor about that situation, and congratulations to his team on the big win and the big Plymouth State game coming up on Saturday. JB, we've talked about my Saturday coming up. It's going to be full of travel, actually Friday and Saturday, I should say. And so let me start to get ready for that. We will have our live show still on Friday morning and have a couple of guests, if I had to guess, on that show. We'll see how we can stack things up there. But kind of get us out of week 4 and into the week 5 mindset here by kind of telling us your last thoughts on week 4.
Well, basically, week 4 into week 5 is really the delineation point. I mean, there are some conferences that have already started conference play, but week 5 is usually the kind of official kickoff of conference season for the most part. At least every other conference that hasn't done it yet is going in this weekend, and there's some really big games. I'm just looking at the scoreboard for week 5, and you got North Central Wheaton. You're going to see Endicott. Well, of course, these are non-conference games. Oshkosh, Whitewater, Salisbury, Christopher Newport, ETBU, Mary Hardin, Baylor. You got Whitworth and some of the teams up in the Northwest. You've got Randolph-Macon, Shenandoah in the ODAC. That conference is finally going to get going there. Bethel's playing Gustavus in the MIAC, another big conference game for them. So we're sort of transitioning out of the non-conference portion into the conference portion, and this is where we'll have some fun rivalry games, some trophy games, and then we'll just keep things rolling through, because really the ticket to the playoffs is always through the conference championship automatic Pool A qualifying bid. So if you can go undefeated or at least win the tiebreaker in your conference, you're guaranteed one of those 28 or so spots. And then the rest is sort of up to robots or whoever is running the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes and using math to pick these games.
Yeah. Well, I've got a bright idea. Let's see if I can get it over my head. Ding. There we go. I've got a bright idea. Yeah. Why don't we end the show and get ready for the rest of the week here, folks? And maybe I'll order some light bulbs in the meantime. But anyway, we will see you on Friday. Thanks to everybody that helped out to make this show possible with the interviews and the excitement from Saturday on my travels. And thanks to all of you for watching. We'll see you soon as we go to week 5.